Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome back to an episode of Kahe Ga Kazi. My guest today was Wajiha Ather Naqvi. Wajiha is a singer, songwriter. Notable works include Hijrat, which is an album that she's recorded in various different languages, including Bengali and Sindhi and Pashto, and of course Urdu. She's also been on Coke Studio with her single Yaqeen, and also the women's anthem Natutiawe. Also someone well versed in cultural anthropology, Islamic anthropology. We get to speaking about the Sufi tradition in the subcontinent, about the Sufi message, about how it is sometimes whitewashed to make it more palatable, and how it is sometimes erroneously bifurcated from the fundamental tenets of religion, of Islam. We also get to speaking about the cathartic nature of singing, of music, and how it is a unifying force, if anything. And we get to speaking about how if you zoom out, you feel that everything was always guided, but in that instance, it's always one foot in front of the other. Enjoy. 3, 2, 1. Wajiha Ather Naqvi. How are you doing, Wajiha? You good?
I'm great.
Alhamdulillah. So, I was talking to you about the 3-hour-long podcast I had with Saif Ali. Saif Ali is in the marketing sector here, but he's someone who was deported from America.
Okay.
Right? And so he came on the podcast and he just told me that story.
When was he deported?
It's been a few years. It's been many years now. It's been, I think, 8 odd years.
Okay.
Yeah, but when he was deported, just a shirt on his back, that kind of thing. Like he left, his life was there, and he was raised in Dubai and then America. So, अच्छा खासा खतरनाक कहानी थी, and he's also a brilliant storyteller. So we just sat there for 3 hours. Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dude,
I'm a fan of the way you conduct your podcast. It's very free form. So I don't know what to expect.
There's
like I asked you कि क्या पूछने वाले हैं आप, कोई मुझे एक theme दे दें, बता दें.
मैं आपसे कुछ नहीं पूछ रहा. So we were talking about my diet, which is
starvation.
Yes, starvation. Are you on a diet? Do you like?
No, I've never really dieted.
No.
Yeah.
Just naturally, because you seem like you're in fine shape.
Yeah, I like to exercise. I used to do a lot more yoga than I do now. I mean, since the lockdown, I used to go for yoga classes, and
where'd you go?
like to AQ on Zamzama.
Okay.
So I started that some years ago. And I've not always been like an exercise fitness freak or anything like that. But I think exercise keeps you really fresh. I mean, your mind is more charged, and आपका दिल चाहता है कि आप में energy ज़्यादा आ जाती है. So I started seeing those effects. I started seeing my body much more in shape, and I felt like there's more strength. So then I started also doing that at home. तो बस मतलब मैं इतनी कोई ज़्यादा एक्सरसाइज की वो नहीं हूँ, but I think it's really important कि रोज़ करनी चाहिए.
Because I find that I am a nicer person.
बिल्कुल.
So if I work out in the morning,
बिल्कुल.
I'm just a nicer person.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
So you wake up early morning?
Yeah, no, I don't wake up early morning.
Because you said in the morning, na?
Morning like 10, 11. Not early. Like early होता फजर पे उठ के workout करता बंदा.
Morning तो फिर 7 a.m. असली, like 6, 7 a.m. morning होती है.
6, 7 a.m. But because I'm not eating, what am I going to do? Whenever I wake up, I just work out.
Because that's really the purpose of life, right?
Sure, breakfast and stuff. Yeah.
So
nothing.
you like live to eat. You like food.
Yeah, I used to love food. Okay, so I'm 80 kilos right now. 3 months ago, I was 100.
You don't look that like you're someone who's bigger than how much they need to be.
No.
You seem pretty...
Abhi normal ho gaya. So I was 105 kilos. If you check out my podcasts from even 3 months ago, I wouldn't even fit in this chair.
What?
Just huge. And I worked out, so I was big, right? Big face and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So I absolutely used to live to eat, and I would eat everything. And
so you're fond of food.
Yes. I think I have an eating disorder. Super casual. I think I do. It's emotional eating. It is. It's what it is. We have not introduced you. Okay. Let's do that, right? Okay. So I know you from Natutia, right? that's the first time I heard you, and I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. Then Ali Bhai of TPR Pod, he was like, she's one of us. I'm like, if she's one of us, then I should invite her to a podcast. I'm joking. Everyone's invited, inshallah. But so,
What's one of us?
you know,
एंड अली जो हैं
जो अच्छे लोग होते हैं ना, जो
इनसे भी मैं बात करना चाहती हूँ क्योंकि मेरी इनसे कभी हुई नहीं. आई नो TPR पॉड, वो बड़े मज़े के वो पॉडकास्ट करते हैं,
हाँ,
बट आई हैव नेवर इंटरैक्टेड विद हिम ईदर, सो इंशाल्लाह मे बी.
या नो,
हाँ.
इंशाल्लाह ही इज. अब यार देखो, अल्लाह करे ऐसा हो जाए, अल्लाह करे नज़र नहीं लगे. ही इज सपोज टू कम टू कराची in July.
अच्छा.
Sometime in July. Mysterious. He's fond of Batman.
अच्छा.
So he likes to shroud himself in an air
Entry
of
मारते
mystery.
हैं.
जी. Sunglasses and all, black, everything, of course. So musician for sure,
जी.
right? What else?
अच्छा, इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग कि आपने मेरा ना टुटिया की बात की.
Yeah.
एक्चुअली मेरा अपना भी एक सोलो गाना आया था.
हाँ.
आई डोंट नो आपने वो सुना कि नहीं, कोक स्टूडियो में.
I must have, but
इट्स कॉल्ड यकीन.
yeah, must
So
have.
that was an original song that I released with Cook Studio last season.
Wow.
And Natutiave was, of course, with everyone else. So I guess I am a musician. मैं guess इसलिए कहती हूँ because I never thought that I would be singing for one of the largest music platforms of the country,
what I was
because
gonna
it just kind of happened for me. मौसीकी का मेरा हमेशा से बचपन से ताल्लुक़ है, बट मैंने कभी ये नहीं सोचा कि मैं एक्चुअली उसको फुल फ्लेज्ड परस्यू कर रही हूँ.
That's beautiful. How? Why didn't you think so?
Because multiple reasons. I think एक तो ये कि the kind of environment that you grow up in, upbringing आपकी जैसी होती है, family, ये होता है कि वो पढ़ाई करनी है, नौकरी करनी है,
इज्जत वाले
9 to
काम
5
करने हैं.
इज्जत वाले काम करने हैं.
Right.
ख़वातीन इसमें नहीं जाती.
नहीं.
नॉट कि मेरी कोई बहुत इस तरह की कोई कंजर्वेटिव उस तरह की फैमिली है, या इवन फैमिलीज ऑल्सो ऑब्वियसली इवॉल्व विद टाइम, और उनके भी ख्यालात बदलते हैं.
सही.
तो कभी ये सोचा नहीं था, बट बिकॉज मुझे मौसीकी का हमेशा से शौक़ था, तो मैंने बचपन से लाइक आई लर्न द गिटार व्हेन आई वाज इन स्कूल. आई यूज्ड टू परफॉर्म एट स्कूल कॉन्सर्ट्स. देन कॉलेज हुआ, लम्स गई, वहाँ पे आई वाज वेरी एक्टिवली इन्वॉल्व्ड विद द म्यूज़िक सीन. कॉन्सर्ट्स पे गाती थी. इनफैक्ट अभी रिसेंटली फरहाद हुमायूं पास्ट अवे. हाँ, अल्लाह मियाँ उनको रेस्ट हिज ब्लेस हिज सोल. तो वो उस वक़्त लाहौर के म्यूज़िक सीन में काफ़ी एक्टिव थे एंड यूज्ड टू कम टू लम्स एज वेल. तो उनके साथ भी मौका मिला टू जैम. ही वाज वेरी इनकरेजिंग एंड आई थिंक लड़कियां इतनी ज़्यादा जो है वो, देयर वर नॉट सो मेनी गर्ल्स सो मच इन्वॉल्व्ड इन इवन इन अ कॉलेज म्यूज़िक सीन, बिकॉज आई रिमेंबर दैट देयर वुड बी मोस्टली guys and I would go into the music room and be jamming with them. तो इसी तरह jam sessions, never again. बिलाल खान जो हैं, who's also a musician, अब वो बड़े famous एक ड्रामों में भी आते हैं. कुक स्टूडियो में थे वो काफ़ी पहले शुरू ने किया था. वो भी मेरे साथ थे लम्स में.
I live under a rock with you.
That's okay. Don't worry. I so do I to a certain extent. So I'm just sort of sharing that I went to a business school initially to study economics.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Ended up doing anthropology.
Sure. Why not?
Because I was like, if I'm here, I will study what I like to study, and I've gotten in. And, so, I mean, matlab, I never thought कि, बाद में जाके मुझे कोई corporate नौकरी करनी, मतलब उस तरह से मैंने सोचा नहीं. So I pursued things that interested me.
Anthropology in what?
So anthropology, it was like cultural anthropology.
Right, okay.
And within that, matlab, I started gravitating towards courses on, history of South Asia, Sufi poetry, history of Shiism in the subcontinent.
Serious?
So matlab, मौसीकी से जुड़ी हुई, culture से जुड़ी हुई, सकाफत से जुड़ी हुई, इस तरह की, literature. I started doing a lot more of those kind of courses. And of course, I was साथ में music भी pursue हो रहा था. Again, music साथ चल रहा था. जैसे कहते हैं hobby होता है, passion होता है. And I mostly performed to Western on Western songs. So,
interesting.
I, matlab, doing covers of Pink Floyd and Radiohead. These are the kind of sort of jams that we used to be. Seal. Those are the kind of songs that we would be jamming at Lums.
So
because
when I watched
सब burger बच्चे.
Sure, yeah.
तो
I mean,
इसी तरह के गाने सुने.
Yeah.
और वही हमने गाने शुरू किए.
When we saw the video ना, because again ये भी लॉकडाउन में हुआ था, तो वीडियो भी आप लोगों ने या कोक स्टूडियो ने एक मखसूस तरीके से बनाई थी, बनानी पड़ी थी उनको, जाहिर है. पहले
Separately.
Exactly. पहले there used to be these huge I don't know, orchestras, I suppose you can call them. Lots of musicians.
Live band जो होता था, पूरा set था, and of course.
So उसमें lots of people were sitting down, lots of people standing up, and even then I remarked to my sister, I'm like, she has such a country vibe. She has such a she has such a Coldplay type of jazz. क्या scene है इनका? मुझे समझ नहीं आया. She doesn't feel to me like someone who's classically trained. But then you say you are also classically trained.
Yes. So that happened like 4 or 5 years ago. Is when I started pursuing classical music. So again, just to go back to my college time, वहाँ से निकली, moved back to Karachi because of course I was in Lahore. I wanted to do my masters. I got a scholarship to at the New York University. वो scholarship थी primarily for girls from South Asian countries. So I was very lucky to be one of the first recipients of Falak Sufi scholarship. उनकी एक होती है. So for girls who are interested, this was a program in Near Eastern studies. So Near Eastern studies means a study of countries of the Islamic world. Mm-hmm. So Near East means, from like South Asia to North Africa का region, उसमें Muslim majority countries के region को वो Near East कहते हैं.
Beautiful.
तो उसमें then when I went there, I started, I focused on the anthropology of Islam. I was in New York City. This was a time post 9/11. I went in 2010. And in fact, while I was in New York in 2012 था, when Osama bin Laden was also found in Pakistan. So I remember कि New York में क्या हालात या किस किस्म का like एक celebration हो रहा था जब वो पकड़ा गया था यहाँ पे, and we were so embarrassed कि यार ये तो हमारे.
Must have been a wonderful time for you.
Yeah, no, but it was also really embarrassing because you're like कि मतलब हमारे गढ़ में वो पकड़ा गया है और हम anyway that's so खैर that was also a time where पीछे Pakistan was constantly, and Muslims were kind of branded as extremists and terrorists, and so it was a time of exploration of the self, and I think anthropology allowed me to study my own religion from multiple perspectives. Sure. And also study about how the West has always viewed it, right? So I got to explore a lot of engagement with people from the Middle East. I learned Persian also for a year.
Just super casual. Persian.
मतलब that was part of the degree. There was a language component. उसमें मौका मिला कि आप
कोई आसान language भी हो सकती है नहीं?
Actually फारसी फिर भी आसान होगी. There was अरबी थी जो मैंने कहा शायद 1 साल में मुश्किल होगा कि उसको तो मैंने कहा कि it's close है. मेरी उर्दू भी शायद फारसी से बेहतर हो जाएगी. तो I think so, definitely. I think कि फारसी सीखते वक्त मुझे काफ़ी उसमें उर्दू मेरी और साफ़ होती गई. और मेरे एक बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग प्रोफेसर थे जो वो तेहरान की एक ख़ास तेहरूनी फ़ारसी उसको कहते हैं. तो उनका बड़ा एक एक्सेंट एक बड़ा मज़े का होता है जिस तरह से वो तेहरान में स्पेसिफिकली बोलते हैं. तो उन्होंने वो मुझे I got to learn that for a year. I had a lot of Iranian friends, Turkey, because it was a Near Eastern Studies program, so a lot of people from the Middle East, Turkey, Iran. तो and then I was living in New York. तो वहाँ पे I started studying the anthropology of Islam and then the anthropology of sacred music and of Sufi music. वहाँ पे my thesis advisor was this lady who had done her thesis and her PhD on North African Sufi music.
Wow.
So I just gravitated towards these subjects that I personally found very fascinating, and that taught me something about my own self and my culture and my religion. तो मैंने अपना वहाँ पे thesis किया on Sufi music festivals.
Okay. Sufi music festivals, like
जी.
ये जो यहाँ पे भी होता है, बिटशा पे होता है.
नहीं तो I actually did it on Sufi music festivals in the West.
Okay.
कि वहाँ पे because उस वक्त ये भी हो रहा था कि because of this whole branding of Muslims as terrorists,
Yeah.
extremists, and radical, and all of that crap. The West, there was a lot of interest in the West to kind of, शो कि वो इस्लाम सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है और उसको काउंटर करने के लिए वो एक सूफ़ी का एक एलिमेंट ले आते थे कि वो आप ये देखें कि ये सूफ़ीज़ जो होते हैं वो बड़े पीस लविंग होते हैं राइट बट उसमें ये था कि वो वेस्ट में जाके वो कुछ ज़्यादा ही उसको ना इस्लाम से अलग दिखाने की कोशिश हो रही होती थी एज इफ के सूफीज़ का इस्लाम से कोई ताल्लुक ही नहीं है
Sure, yeah.
तो उसको बहुत ही एक स्पिरिचुअल यूनिवर्सल स्पिरिचुअल उस किस्म से वो न्यू एज स्पिरिचुअलिटी भी जिसको आप देखते हैं आजकल वो मार्केट की जाती है उसको प्रमोट किया जाती है एग्जैक्टली सो वो सारा जो है उसकी काइंड ऑफ context में is that something that I kind of explored is Sufi music really like how much is it kind of being commodified and how much is it actually working to bridge this relation between the West and Muslims
and what did you find?
And I mean, it wasn't like a conclusive kind of a thing. It was more of an analysis and an ongoing thing. I think right now even हम अगर देखें कि इसको हमें further explore करने की ज़रूरत है कि when we talk about finding commonality between different cultures, we don't have to take out from those cultures what they really stand for and what they really mean, right? So we don't have to dilute them.
That's a good word, yes.
So we don't have to whitewash them. And for instance, I'll give an example. So Rumi, for instance, is one of the most widely sold, his poems are the most widely sold in the West.
Sure.
And not in the West, in the world.
Okay, yeah, of course.
His collection of poetry.
The Red Book.
It's उसकी I'm forgetting the name कोलमन बाक्स की किताब है रूमी के ऊपर और वो बहुत मशहूर है वो बहुत ज़्यादा मार्केट भी की जाती है अब उसकी जो आप पोइट्री अगर पढ़े कोई तो रूमी was a very very practicing Muslim but if you read the way that it's been translated, it somehow feels like, and of course when you read it, there's reference to wine and there's reference to Rumi's relationship with Shams Tabriz, which sometimes is also looked at very
romantically.
Dono ka kya, which perhaps is in the West they need to look at it in those same lens that relates to their culture, perhaps, So they somehow think that wine or alcohol is something that Rumi actually perhaps, said that it's okay, aap kuch bhi kare, but Allah Miya is like, going to be,
forgive you and stuff.
Forgive you. But that somehow is diluting what, Rumi's real message was. Which was actually stemming from the real teachings of Islam and, which taught something much more deeper and philosophical.
Yes.
Right? So, usko aap jab us lens mein aap paint karte hain aur aapko sell karte hain, to obviously wo bikta bhi hai. Because everyone relates to it.
But then it confuses us, right?
But then it confuses us because we also think, अच्छा, Rumi to bada chill tha, to iska matlab hai ki
modern इंसान थे.
हाँ, जो कि वो थे, वो इवॉल्व थे बहुत ज़्यादा बट वो शायद ये नहीं कह रहे थे जो हम शायद उनकी इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशंस में पढ़ रहे हैं कि वो या हमें लगता है कि वो हमें बताया जा रहा है कि अगर वो शराब की बात कर रहे हैं तो इसका ये मतलब है कि वो कह रहे हैं कि मतलब let yourself drown in this so it's that's I think the contradiction that one finds.
So Sufi saints are known for their vitriol towards religious zealots.
हाँ,
जो मुल्ले होते थे
हाँ,
उस वक्त
बिल्कुल.
के भी, they're known for this,
And
right?
that's what Rumi was himself at that time. वो भागे थे मंगोल invasion से,
sure,
और वो जाके settle हुए थे. वो उनके father अफगानिस्तान से भागे टर्की कोनिया में.
But you cannot amputate the tradition of intellectualism or academia from Sufism, right? I was recently having a conversation with an extremely smart person. She's a close friend of mine, and we were saying exactly this. She was saying, yaar, Sufism is spiritual. I'm like, yes, but there absolutely is an intellectual element. These were incredibly intelligent people. You don't become Sufi by foregoing everything. You become Sufi by understanding that everything is, to be forsaken, because everything is
बिल्कुल.
a hindrance. It's not the same thing.
बिल्कुल,
If
बिल्कुल.
if I give up this can of Coke without knowing what it is, it's not the same as me understanding exactly how good it tastes,
Yeah.
exactly how good it is, and then giving it up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not the same thing,
yeah.
no.
And Sufism is also not exactly the same as a lot of other, perhaps, spiritual traditions, जो कि आप maybe Buddhist or Hindu traditions वगैरह, yogis,
Mysticism and all those things.
Mysticism
Yeah,
में.
yeah.
It's not the same because, like you said, Sufis were also very much about living in the world.
Yes.
They weren't just about transcending.
And
it was about living in the world
properly.
with that
Yeah.
awareness
Yes.
that you are connected to something that is beyond
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And not कि आप बिल्कुल ही अपने आप को, which is something that perhaps maybe asceticism जो कहते हैं, which like monks perhaps do.
Yeah.
That वो monastery में जाके they'll shut themselves out
Yeah.
from the outside world. और वो Sufis का ये नहीं था. It
नहीं.
was very much about embracing reality.
Yes. It was very much about that, and it was also about, leading a life worth living, right? Because आप देखो ना, we're meant to, all of us are meant to try and die trying, emulate the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? That's what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? You said it so beautifully. It's such a problem when these messages are whitewashed into kids now being like, yeah, I'm Muslim, but I also don't agree with the fundamental tenets of Islam. You cannot be one thing without the other.
Yeah.
Na, dekho, and I wish no ill on anyone.
Bilkul.
Right? You live your truth.
Bilkul,
And aapka truth
bilkul,
acha hai,
agreed.
love and all those
Haan.
things. No one should hurt you. Right? But at the same time, you also cannot expect me to accept that you are this one thing when you violate the fundamental tenets of that one thing. Na? So,
Matlab, you must understand the difference,
Sure.
right? Okay, because there is again this idea also, and I'm not saying that I'm like,
fully,
saying
no,
saying कि मैं बड़ी कोई सूफी हूँ या क्या,
नहीं.
but I'm just saying कि ये एक in today's world or in today's very commercialization of Sufism, we see this a lot. That somehow Sufism means being spiritual and not religious.
Yeah.
But there's no actually difference.
There's no
because
bifurcation, exactly.
Sufis were also very religious people.
They're the most religious.
और उनके आप उसमें देखें तो शरीयत सबसे पहले आती है, right? और बाद में वो जाके आपके वो करते हैं, बाकी जो है आपकी important उसको मानते हैं.
So it is understood, or it is said at least, that the tradition of Sufism comes from Hazrat Ali Riztana. Is there truth to that?
So a lot of Sufi orders trace back the lineage to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Yeah.
And from him, then yes, through Hazrat Ali is that they trace this this esoteric mystical tradition through him.
Because
mostly.
what's interesting is there are hadiths that are absolutely proven. The line, the chain of context is absolutely proven. जिसमें हज़रत अली रज़ी अल्लाह अन्हु की इतनी खतरनाक नमाज होती थी कि so there is a, I'm going to get emotional for no reason at all, but there is a hadith, right, where after they were done, because he would अपने time में he would lead, he was the Khalifa, so he would lead the prayers. After he was done leading, everyone was going home. Allah मुझे माफ़ करे गलत नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but I remember reading this exactly like this. And they left him, तो वो अपनी सुन्नत पढ़ रहे थे, and he was in ruku, right? They came back at Fajr, he was still in ruku. For 4 hours this man would pray, Rajitana, right? You can't tell me, you cannot cite his name and then tell me, नमाज़ों का क्या, spiritual होना चाहिए. यार ऐसे ना करो यार, ऐसे ना, you don't know what you're talking about.
जबकि मैं ये भी कहूँगी कि मतलब ये नहीं इसका मतलब कि अगर आप नहीं पढ़ते तो आपको कोई कह रहा है कि आप खराब
नहीं,
वो फिर आपकी और अल्लाह मियाँ की बीच की वो है. मगर एग्जैक्टली आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि, या आप उसका फ्लिप साइड देखें तो आप ये भी नहीं कह सकते
नमाज़ें पढ़ो बाकी सब खैर है.
हाँ,
नहीं.
तो वो एक जो बैलेंस है ना, वो सूफीज वर रियली लेड दैट बैलेंस एंड दे वर पीपल, वही जिस तरह आपने कहा कि वो उनका रोल मॉडल तो माय होली प्रॉफिट थे. तो उनको मतलब उनको एम्यूलेट करना कोई मजाक नहीं है,
नहीं.
आसान काम नहीं. इवन मुझे एक्चुअली पता नहीं क्यों मैं इस टॉपिक पे आ जाती हूँ फिर से. आई गेस मैं अपनी थीसिस की बात करती हूँ, मुझे रिलीजन में इतना ज़्यादा इसमें बात वैसे I didn't want to get into that as much because I'm not talking about religion theologically. मतलब I'm not a scholar, but I've studied the anthropology of religion and of Islam. And so मैं उस and while I was obviously exploring this whole concept of Sufi music is when I was discovering these like dichotomies. But
isn't it a tragedy that this is a dangerous conversation? It's tragic, na? So we're talking about love, only love. We're not talking about anyone being wrong. We're just like, these people were more right, and so we follow them. That's all we're saying. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's all we're saying. And yet this is a dangerous conversation.
And yet we can't talk about him openly because you don't know what can happen in this country.
Exactly. Right? Isn't that sad?
That's very sad.
Yeah.
That's very sad.
That breaks my heart because Karachi ki hum baat kar rahe the, and you've been born and raised in Karachi, right? And I remarked that is somehow I would feel that anchor gives you power to then be okay within yourself and just to move wherever. And you did say okay, you could move wherever and you'd be fine, inshallah, right? As long as there's people. Karachi has had that spirit of giving. That bravery, na?
Of course. ऐसे ही तो नहीं उसको दिल कहते हैं पाकिस्तान का. मतलब लोग हर जगह से आके इसमें अपना घर बनाते हैं. No one, and it's funny, मैं अपने parents को भी कहती हूँ to my mom कि she always say I'm from Peshawar, and I was like, Ammi, like since I've been born you've been living here, when will you say Karachi is your city? You say कि आप वहाँ से, that's the problem कि Karachi में nobody says कि यार, but now the second generation born and raised like myself, like many others are where Karachi is through and through, and I'm very proud to be a Karachi wala. And so I think Karachi has always, people have taken from the city, but very little has been given, even from the establishment and from the state and the investments and economy wise it gives so much to the country. Very little is put back into this into this city.
But and the thing is, think about what it gives. Na, it gave you people like Abdul Sattar Idi,
Adib Rizvi.
It gave you wonderful initiatives like Taskeen.
Bilkul. Sabine, T2F, which sadly has closed because of funding issues, right?
That really makes me sad.
Really tragedy.
That makes me sad. South Shore closed.
What?
Yeah, South Shore closed. I'm pretty sure even Licol closed.
What do you mean?
Like they just closed. They can't because they couldn't sustain themselves.
You're kidding me.
I wish I was. I hope I am, but I'm not. As of right now, I know that they're closed. Yeah.
That is really sad.
Yeah, even though I went to Nixa and we kind of hated South Shore, but I don't want to, you don't want them to close down.
Yeah.
You don't want that to happen. Allah Rahm kare. But Karachi is the philanthropic capital of the world. it's been known for that.
Absolutely.
Right? And I was like,
No one sleeps hungry here. वो इसके बारे में यही
Yeah,
मशहूर है ना
yeah.
कि कोई भी भूखा नहीं हो सकता
Isn't that insane?
कराची की सड़कों पे.
that's kind of insane. It's kind
हाँ,
of
इतनी
crazy.
charity होती है.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but you were saying something. What you said about your mom continuing to hold that she's from Peshawar, right?
Which of course I don't blame
It's
her.
a beautiful
but,
thing.
हाँ.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
हाँ.
Like I'll always say मैं सेमर से हूँ, right? But मेरे ताया जो है, my dad doesn't. He's like हाँ ठीक है सेमर से हैं आप.
अच्छा एक exotic element भी तो शायद आता है जो which
Exactly.
people like to play ना कि
Exactly,
वो
right.
मैं actually मगर नहीं,
Actually
you know,
मैं सेमर से हूँ ना, आपको पता है ना मैं.
और बड़े मजे की लोग बहुत एक्सप्लॉइट भी करते हैं ना बात बिकॉज जब एप्लीकेशंस होती हैं आई रिमेंबर कॉलेज एप्लीकेशंस तो दे रियली लाइक टू हियर यू नो गोरों का आप बता दें कि एक्चुअली मैं इतनी बड़ी सिटी से नहीं हूँ मैं एक छोटे से गाँव से हूँ जहाँ पे इतने ज्यादा लोग भी नहीं रहते दिल भी लाइक यस हमें यही बनना चाहिए.
अच्छा what's interesting is
Because आपने ही मतलब आप you know
आप ही तो हैं.
हाँ आप निकल के पता नहीं क्या क्या कर देंगे.
Yeah.
हमें सिटी वाले लोग नहीं चाहिए.
क्योंकि वो कुछ नहीं करते
हाँ.
बेचारे. But I didn't know that till I got back. Like when I was 26, they were like, हाँ गुरु को वो ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता है. Well,
जी.
yeah, but I've been telling them, no, I'm from one of the most developed areas in Pakistan. Everyone sounds like me because that's the other thing they would say to me. They're like, you have an accent, and why do you sound like this? I was like, this is what Pakistani people sound like. They're like, no, they don't. I'm like, well, you're out of your mind. Of course they sound like me. You know, I'm about as Pakistani as you can get. You know.
Also, they probably aren't exposed to how diverse Pakistanis are, right?
Sure.
So Pakistanis, there are all sorts of Pakistanis, and they look all sorts of different ways.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you know, we all the three of us, we look so different.
So different, yeah.
But
yeah.
we're as Pakistani as
you
it
can
can
be,
be.
yeah.
So agar koi aake and that's actually the beautiful thing about where we're located and you know the region itself. And हमारी मौसीकी भी ऐसी है जो मैंने अपनी क्लासिकल म्यूज़िक में सीखा भी है कि हम ईरान से बोरो किया है और हमने यू नो संस्कृत से बोरो किया है हमने अरबी से बोरो किया है हमने सेंट्रल एशियन से बोरो किया है टर्किक ट्रेडिशन से और वो मिल के जो चीज़ और हम लोग भी वही हैं हमारा कल्चर भी वही है इट्स अ मिक्सचर ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स एंड दैट्स व्हाट मेक्स अस यूनिक एंड आई थिंक वी शुड एम्ब्रेस दैट रादर दैन saying कि oh मेरा अरब से you know for some reason we like to generally as a nation like to trace ourselves back to the Middle East perhaps
Yes.
or to Saudis perhaps.
Yes, Saudis, yeah,
हाँ,
yeah.
particularly.
They're horrible people,
Yeah.
dude.
I can't believe you're saying
no,
this
you,
on a podcast.
You need to understand.
I mean, they haven't been the best of friends to Pakistan, that's for sure.
No, not even just that. Like, think about the fact that...
Or to Islam. really also.
That's what I'm saying, right? Think about the fact that the prophet, the final prophet of God was sent to them to fix them. Think about how bad they must be. That's not a good thing.
I did not say that.
Oh, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's not a... Like, मैं कभी people like, you know... So the Arabic language is beautiful.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wैसे even the people, I mean, I don't want to come across as, you know, kind of being very, like, racist towards,
No, you're not.
you know, stereotyping.
Yeah.
But, of course, I'm talking about the context of Saudi Arabia in a very, you know, since it's been formed, which has been the 1920s.
Yeah, in a very political
people
way.
Think
Yeah.
कि Saudi Arabia कब से है? जब prophet थे, there was no Saudi Arabia, right?
No, there wasn't. There was Makkah and Medina, and those cities will stand, inshallah.
Yeah.
Right? But the rest of it, like the problems they cause people like you and me, so we just want to go, you know, perform a hajj or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Allah Raham karega. Again, we've already explored two directions that we probably shouldn't go in.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to music before we run into. But Allah Raham karega. So, but you were telling me how you never expected, because you said, you know, I think I'm a musician, and I'm like, do you know you've been on Coke Studio?
Yeah, I know. I keep saying that. A lot of people go to me, ki, yaar, why don't you own it, embrace it? I do own it, but I am also very lucky, and I feel very blessed कि मुझे वो मौका मिला that I was able to be part of this big platform. So I do think that. But वही मैंने कहा कि मैंने जो है म्यूज़िक को different parameters से ना पढ़ा समझा म्यूज़िक मौसीकी लाइक गाने का शौक़ था ये सारी चीज़ें थी मैंने ये नहीं सोचा था कि वो प्रोफेशनली जो है मैं एक्चुअली लाइक एक म्यूज़िशियन बनूँगी तो आफ्टर आई मूव्ड बैक आई स्टार्टेड वर्किंग in this development program And I think that's when this project and this campaign, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, called I'm Karachi came about.
Sure.
And I was one of the first people to have like helped set up that campaign. I was running that campaign. So we did a lot of cultural work. So my passion was, using arts and culture and music to bring people together, and that's what I'm Karachi's motive was. So we did a lot of, film festivals, music festivals, worked in different parts of Karachi. So Karachi के हालात भी बहुत tricky और dangerous वगैरह थे. तो वो सारा हुआ. In that time I was also looking for an ustad to, मैंने कहा था कि अगर मैंने मौसीकी शुरू करनी है अपनी, तो मैं सही सीखूंगी अपनी क्लासिकल मौसीकी. तो वो मैं ढूंढती गई अपने, और फाइनली मुझे किसी तरह से अपने टीचर का नंबर मिला, और बस उनके साथ मुझे यही होता है, एक ये होता है कि आपका दिल का कनेक्शन होता है. और
would you like to mention him?
Of course. So he's the son of Ustad Nasiruddin Sami.
Okay.
And I mean, who needs no introduction? He's one of the most iconic, legendary khayal classical vocalists of this region, I would say. So he belongs to both the Dilli Gharana and also his son, who is my teacher, Rauf Sami. उनके जो बेटे हैं वो कवाली करते हैं, और उनका ताल्लुक़ है कवाल बच्चों से. और कवाल बच्चे जो हैं वो अपनी जो है लिनिएज वो ट्रेस करते हैं टू द ओनली डिसाइपल ऑफ अमीर खुसरो, मियाँ सामद बिन इब्राहिम. उन्होंने जिनको सिखाया था, वहाँ से वो अपनी जो है जनरेशन 7th generation लॉन्ग वो कवाली करते आते हैं. सो माय उस्ताद इज़ एक्चुअली ऑल्सो अ कवाल. And
is he still taking students?
Yes, he is.
How do we get in touch with him?
I can share his number with you.
Yeah, all right. I'll put it in the YouTube link. Whoever wants to get in touch. This is wonderful.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, bilkul. And so I reached out to him. उन्होंने कहा कि मैं आके सुनूंगा पहले, और ये वो.
अच्छा, ऐसे भी होता है.
हाँ.
So maybe don't put the number in.
No. Yeah,
he doesn't take you
so
like that.
I'm very proud to say कि मैं अपनी उस्ताद की मतलब एक, वैसे तो बहुत लोगों को पढ़ाते हैं, but I'm one of his like actual like students, who have been with him for many years, and I have like a very close connection, relationship with him and his father. उस्ताद नसीरुद्दीन सामी साहब के साथ भी मुझे मौका मिला है. तो और वो ये भी देखते हैं, और उन्होंने मुझे जो चीज़ें सिखाई हैं, और जिस तरह से मतलब मैंने उनके साथ मैंने मेहनत की है इतने साल, वो उसको भी देखते हैं, और वो उसी हिसाब से फिर वो सिखाते हैं. तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आई एम नाउ मोर एट लाइक एन एडवांस्ड आई गेस स्टूडेंट, बट आई एम स्टिल लर्निंग, एंड इट्स लाइक आई थिंक अ लाइफ लॉन्ग जर्नी ऑफ लर्निंग एंड नॉलेज. तो मतलब आई थिंक मैं जितना इसमें सीखूं, आपको लगता है कि और आपका दिल चाहता है कि आप और सीखें, और इसमें चलते चले जाएं. तो वही मैं कहती हूँ कि मतलब इट्स नेवर एंडिंग दिस नॉलेज ऑफ म्यूजिक. एंड आई थिंक म्यूजिक हैज टॉट मी अ लॉट अबाउट माय ओन सेल्फ आल्सो, बिकॉज इट्स सो पर्सनल. इट्स सो व्हेन यू प्रैक्टिस विद योर टीचर, एंड योर टीचर नोज कि आपकी आवाज़ सिर्फ आपकी, मतलब आपकी सिर्फ आपको बिलोंग करती है, मेरी सिर्फ मुझे करती है. तो उसमें से उसको किस तरह से इस्तेमाल भी करना है वो सिर्फ मुझे आता है. और आपके टीचर को वो जब समझ में आता है ना कि आप आवाज़ ऐसे निकालती हैं क्योंकि शायद आपकी पर्सनैलिटी इज़ अ सर्टन वे, फॉर इंस्टेंस, तो दैट रियली गेट्स यू टू लाइक really introspect and be like, oh, now I'm discovering myself. Like, this is why I am unable to perhaps, sing a certain way, या मुर्कियाँ निकालना, या इस तरह से आवाज़ निकालना, क्यों मुश्किल है मेरे लिए. मैं शायद सोचती बहुत हूँ, मैं शायद nervous हूँ, मैं शायद confident नहीं feel करती.
What a journey, yeah? What a journey.
So I think that's, I started learning, and while I was, working with I'm Karachi, working on that, I had, during Lams, I'd written my songs and stuff. So I during that time, I met Zuhaib Qazi, who was the producer of season 11 of Coke Studio, along with Ali Hamza.
Okay.
तो उनसे मेरी मुलाकात हुई, and then I think they were doing season 11. They called me for auditions as a backing vocalist.
Okay.
Because Zuhaib had heard me sing, so उन्होंने मुझे बुलाया, and you know I auditioned and I got it, and I'd never thought कि you know backing vocalist भी होगा.
नहीं.
तो वही मैं आपको कह रही हूँ कि मैंने म्यूजिक के अराउंड सारे components जो हैं, you know, whether it's designing cultural programs and festivals, whether it's studying about the anthropology of music, you know, whether it's pursuing music as a passion, but never thought कि मैं खुद जो वो एक you know musician बन जाऊंगी और मैं गा रही हूँगी.
And then also
वो मुझे लगता है push जिस तरह नहीं होता अल्लाह की तरफ से या कोई एक I don't know क्या हुआ, but वो उस direction में.
It also the kind of music you're making, right? It's very like, yeah, it's very wholesome and required, obviously required, right? In today's day and age, but very healing. Is that fair? That's fair to say, right?
I mean, that's such a big compliment to me. Thank you, because that's actually what I want to do with music.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just should be used for entertainment. I think it really is about healing.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
It's about healing, and it's also about you know, anchoring you in something. I'm big on anchoring these days because not these days. For the longest time, I felt an existential vacuum in me, right? So I'm Sindhi. Thani to sardi to nahi.
हाँ थोड़ी सी, please.
What we'll do is we'll just put this up. Boom.
Yeah. And if you can increase.
Yeah.
Thank you.
मैं कनाडा से आया हूँ. मैं आपको पता है मैं abroad से.
मुझसे किसी ने एक दफा पूछा था, which is really funny, कि आप abroad हैं.
हाँ. Abroad से?
नहीं, abroad से है नहीं. आप abroad हैं.
अच्छा. Foreign return ऐसे भी नहीं. Abroad है.
Abroad है.
हाँ.
उनका नहीं, मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ. आप क्यों मुझे कह रहे हैं आप abroad हैं? उनका मतलब यही था कि आप बाहर से आई हैं.
हाँ. No, I used to make, when I would come back for, you know, to meet my family from Canada, मैं बहुत मजे करता था. और भी like, हाँ आपको पता है मैं तो foreign में रहता हूँ ना. It's just the most nonsensical jokes. Hey, they were funny. Whatever.
आप फॉरेन से एकदम से वैल्यू भी बढ़ जाती है ना, जैसे क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली जो बाहर आप हो तो
yeah and वही ना इंग्लिश बोलने से वैल्यू बढ़ती है. if you want to say, if you want to assert any kind of dominance or any kind of authority,
इंग्लिश में बोलना
शुरू हो जाओ. And I'm just like, but I've said nothing. Do you know what I mean? I've said nothing. I suppose it's part of our post-colonial,
of course, a hangover
heritage. Heritage. So that's what I did. Now when I went to Malaysia first, मेरा भी यही था कि भाई आप इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ लें. आप कुछ मैं वहाँ नहीं सर यहाँ पे पढ़ाते हैं डायस्पोरिक लिटरेचर. मैंने वो पढ़ना है. But what's beautiful is my parents were like, yeah, go do whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
Actually, the irony is also कि I studied about the anthropology of Islam.
Yeah.
But I went outside my own country to study it.
Yes.
In a country.
Yes.
Which is not an Islamic country.
Yes.
So this is also like an interesting juxtaposition, right?
Sure.
कि मतलब हम पढ़ाई भी करने जाते हैं, हम अपने ही साउथ एशियन स्टडीज़ हिस्ट्री पढ़ने जाते हैं, पर हम अपने मुल्क के बाहर जाते हैं टू स्टडी इट. अनफॉर्चुनेटली आई डोंट नो व्हेन दैट विल हैपन, एंड दैट्स आल्सो अ ड्रीम कि Pakistan, there are certain universities, I guess there's LUMS and Habib University and I guess IBA also that are like focusing on the social sciences and the liberal arts and studying about our own heritage and culture. But यहाँ पे वो एक institution, एक grooming, एक awareness, एक सिखाई जानी चाहिए. हमें स्कूल में क्यों नहीं सिखाई जाती? हमारे सूफियाना कलाम क्यों नहीं पढ़ाए जाते? हमें सूफी पोइट्स के बारे में क्यों नहीं पढ़ाया जाता? हम शेक्सपियर क्यों पढ़ते हैं?
There's room for Shakespeare as well, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. नहीं पढ़ाया जाता. You have no idea कि this land, the land that we're on right now, was tread upon by these brilliant people, right? By these wonderful.
We're so lucky that we live in this land, which is one of the oldest civilizations, which has ancient knowledge.
Yeah.
That's actually what connects me to this place more than the city and the the national identity bit.
Yeah.
It's what
that.
it really holds for centuries.
For centuries. You know, there's the concept of the Ded Kalandar, right?
Yes, of course.
So
of course.
Lal Sai, and then there's I think one other Kalandar, and then there was a female who was a Kalandar as well, right? But वो क्योंकि खातून है तो उनका Ded होता है,
हाँ.
एक नहीं होता है.
अच्छा, और also वो आपने उनकी बात की, चार चिराग तेरे बलन हमेशा, वो जो लाल मेरी पत में, वो चार चिराग भी आई थिंक वो मुख्तलिफ सूफीज़ की बात होती है ना, जो हक चार यार जिनकी बात करते हैं. आई थिंक वन वाज बहाउद्दीन ज़करिया, one was Baba Farid, one was Lal Shehbaz, and one was someone else, but that's the reference to the four.
Yeah. It's just
Char Chiragh Tere Balan.
Constant goosebumps whenever I talk about them. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a story. मैं ना बड़ा परेशान था कि मैं शिरक कर दूंगा, अल्लाह मुझे माफ़ करे. पहली बार लेके जा रहे थे मुझे लाल साईं के पास. So I casually said मैं सेवर से हूँ, but the first time I went, I think I must have been 18, right? तो सेवर से हूँ,
of course.
फॉरेन में भी रहता हूँ, सेवर से भी हूँ. तो so they took me, and we had a close family friend, वो गद्दी नशीन थे वहाँ के. So we were allowed to go inside, right, where the I don't know where they're actually buried, right? वहाँ पे जहाँ पे उनका है ना actually लाल साईं का, वहाँ पे we got to go inside. Right? Throughout all this, मैं अल्लाह मियाँ से दुआ करूँ, अल्लाह मियाँ देखिए, I pray to you, right? I'm sorry, you said don't misbehave with your mom. I'm not misbehaving with my mom. She brought me here. Listen, this is, come on, you can't, please don't be upset with me. Just. And my mom is actually very religious, right?
Achha.
She's devout and she prays and everything. And for some reason, dogma इतना strong था कि आप अगर वहाँ जाएंगे तो आप शिरक करेंगे. तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ भाई यार मैं शिरक नहीं करना. And so my mom's like, अच्छा बेटा, जब भी किसी की कब्र पे जाते हैं तो क्या करते हैं? हमें फातिहा पढ़ते हैं. बोले बेटा फातिहा पढ़े, बस फातिहा पढ़े, right? I was like, okay. So I put my hand on the thing, कपड़ा बिल्कुल flat surface थी, right? And I put my hand on the thing and I started reciting the Fatiha. I was like, okay, Lamia, this person, the mom said this person was close to you, and he was so.
You were 18, you said.
I was 18. It's like, Lamia, please, if you could, just unke bhi, give him more peace, and please, if you could give us some peace, that'd be great, because you're the creator of everything, you're the creator of existence. I would appreciate that. And so I'm doing this, I'm doing this constantly. Fatiha Party, 3, 4, 5 bar. It was a flat surface, right? I've said this twice. And then when sensation came back, there was something touching me. Something like, and I still feel it to some degree right here in my right hand from a flat surface. I remove my hand. I apologize to Lal Sai. I apologize to Allah Miya. I'm like, I'm sorry. I obviously have no understanding. Obviously, what was I thinking? Why was I thinking that I understand? Right? And from that day on, I'm just like, यार देखो ये शिर्क विरक वाली जो चीज़ें होती है ना, हमें नहीं पता. The only thing that you're not supposed to do, ठीक है, लाल साईं के पास नहीं जाना. What about all the people who worship money?
बिल्कुल.
Is that not so then what are we talking about?
बिल्कुल.
So my thing is, we worship Allah Miya.
अच्छा, और मेरी जो आपने ये बात की, बड़ी सोचने वाली बात है. मैं यही कहती हूँ कि हम उस रीजन में पैदा हुए हैं जहाँ पे एक थियरी है कि सूफियों से ही, उनकी मौसीकी से, उनकी कैरेक्टर से, उनकी पोइट्री से ही इस्लाम फैला. ठीक है, एक थियरी है ये.
अच्छी थियरी है, ट्रूथ नहीं.
मतलब इन द सेंस कि मल्टीपल इसके ऊपर वो हैं. कोई कहते हैं फोर्सफुली भी हुए, जो भी, मतलब बट प्लॉजिबल, मतलब ऑब्वियसली ये हुआ है. मतलब आई एम जस्ट सेइंग थियरी बिकॉज एक ही नहीं होती ना हिस्ट्री. देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज इन व्हिच पीपल कन्वर्टेड टू इस्लाम, राइट?
Of course, yes.
So that's why I'm saying theory. And of course it's true that also happened. So I just wonder कि have people forgotten that their ancestors all went to pay respects to these same saints, that now suddenly they are like कि ये जायज़ नहीं है, ये शिरक है. मतलब उनके खुद के आप अपनी अम्मी से नहीं कहें, बट मैं अपनी अम्मी से फॉर इंस्टेंस पूछती हूँ या बाकी लोगों से पूछती हूँ, बुज़ुर्गों से, कि भाई आपके भी तो बुज़ुर्ग जाके उन्हीं बुज़ुर्गों को जाके उनकी फातिहा पढ़ते थे, उनको रिस्पेक्ट देते थे, वो इसीलिए तो अभी तक चले आ रहे हैं. तो क्या वो जो कर रहे थे वो गलत कर रहे थे?
All of them were wrong, but you're right somehow.
और एकदम से क्या हुआ है कि वो अब शिर्क हो गया. कितने हजार सालों से वो चला आ रहा है सिलसिला, बट अब 50 सालों में
all of a sudden
आप इतनी पुरानी एक ट्रेडिशन को आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि वो गलत चला आ रहा था?
I think देखो ना, also there's some things that are objectively right. There are gray areas in religion, but some things are objectively right. Charity is objectively right. Think about the fact, go to Ghazi Baba, Abdul Shah Ghazi Baba, or go to Lal Sai. No one's ever hungry there.
बिल्कुल.
Is that not something?
No one's hungry and everyone is allowed inside.
Everyone's allowed inside.
Wherever you're from.
Where are we from?
आप transgender हो.
Yeah, no.
आप जितने बड़े कोई वो
deformed हो, कुछ भी हो,
हाँ, आप कोई disability, आप औरत हो.
Yeah.
लाल शहबाज पे तो औरतों का धमाल होता है. मतलब there is no other place like that where women exercise their full presence, and do a dhamal there. So that shows कि उस जगह की क्या significance
कुछ तो है ना. And again, the thing is, you relegate it to sin as if you have the right to judge me. यार देखो मेरी बात सुनो. What's the worst you can do? You can kill me, right? But even that, until it's written, I'm bulletproof. And when it's not, then I'm gone, right?
और आप खुद अपने मज़हब को एक डब्बे में बंद कर रहे हैं.
Yeah, it's the biggest, it's the large, it'll never be concealed, it'll never be, contained. It's the truth. It can't be contained like that. One more story from Lal Sai. You've been to Lal Sai?
Yes, sir.
Obviously. So one more story about Lal Sai. I recently went with my father. Now my dad, old school man, right? Big mustache, cowboy hat, boots, shalwar kameez. He's a boss, right? And robust voice and just the whole thing, right? Just absolute badass, mashallah. Allah mein unko hayati de. I've never seen him cry. I've never seen him, like even if he says thank you, the way he says it, आपको लग रहा होता है कि thank you मुझे बोलना चाहिए था. Even just that kind of man, right?
Presence.
Just a presence, right? Yeah, just a presence. Lal Sai के पास गए, right? So I realize now that he's not as young as he used to be, right? Whatever. सही है, ठीक है, cool, right? But Lal Sai के पास गए, he couldn't walk. जैसे उनका दर enter होता है ना, he just sat down. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be this person. He's like, I can't go forward. Starts crying. I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Right? The thing is, कोई कितना masculine हो या feminine हो या जो भी चीजें हो, you don't know what storms rage inside a person, right? And you don't know these epicenters of spiritual energy. You don't know how they'll interact with it. I was completely fine. And then all of a sudden, I start thinking, I'm like, maybe there's something wrong with me that I'm completely fine.
ये भी होता है ना. I have a friend who went there and he said कि यार मैं expect कर रहा था कि कुछ होगा,
कुछ नहीं हुआ.
तो ये भी एक होता है कि you are like thinking, oh my God, हम इतनी उस पे आए हैं कि बस अभी मतलब कुछ transformational experience होगा. But obviously वो भी imagine करना. But हर किसी का अपना एक relation होता है. और फिर वो कहते हैं ना कि हाज़री तभी लगती है जब आपका बुलावा आता है.
Right. So that's the other thing. Right? I think I must have done something क्योंकि मैं काफ़ी अरसे से नहीं गया हूँ. I've been wanting to go again, but मैं काफ़ी अरसे से नहीं गया हूँ. And it's just powerful. I went to Ghazi Baba as well. Ghazi Baba's, and they all have different energy too, right?
बिल्कुल.
Lal Sai, there's heat.
बिल्कुल.
There's actual heat there. Ghazi Baba is very cool. I don't know what's going on.
और लाहौर में शाह जमाल का मज़ार है.
अच्छा.
I think सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे शायद peaceful और एक really interesting experience वहाँ पे मुझे महसूस हुआ. I went like when I was in college. लम्स में एक कोर्स के दौरान हम लोग का एक field visit वहाँ हुआ था. तो वो भी मुझे बहुत एक बहुत पीसफुल सीरीन एक्सपीरियंस लगा था वहाँ जाके भी. तो आई गेस वो इट रियली डिपेंड्स. आई रिमेंबर उसके साथ ही एक पार्क है जहाँ पे दारा शिको की जो औरंगज़ेब के जो भाई थे, दारा शिको, उनकी बीवी नादरा बेगम का मज़ार, उनका टूम बिल्कुल साथ में शाहजमाल के. तो सॉरी, दिस इज़ नॉट शाहजमाल, आई एम सॉरी, मियाँ मीर का टूम. ही इज़ ऑल्सो फेमस सूफी सेंट. मियाँ मीर का जो मज़ार है उसके साथ शाहजमाल इज़ अनदर प्लेस इन लाहौर. तो वहाँ पे उनकी मज़ार था आउटसाइड मियाँ मीर. आई रिमेंबर हम लोग जूते उतार के गए थे इन द मज़ार, और फिर वहाँ से ही हम निकले और हम उसके साथ एक पार्क है उधर उसको क्रॉस करके, और नादरा बेगम जो दारा शिको की बीवी, उनका वो वहाँ पे है श्राइन. तो मैं नंगे पैर थी और मुझे ख्याल नहीं आया कि चप्पलें पहन के बाहर हम जा रहे हैं, तो पार्क पूरा क्रॉस करके तो मैं नंगे पैर ही चलती गई. पार्क में भी जल्दी मैंने कहा यार शिट, लाइक आई शुड हैव worn my shoes at least.
well, पार्क में ग्रास थी, लेकिन
there was grass, but of course, like, we were still outside. We crossed the road, and so I was like, oh my god, my feet are gonna be dead. Of course, like, you think of these things. I like have a tendency to think of weird things, so I was obviously thinking
it's not weird. Think about the dirt.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, my feet are gonna be super dirty, or you know. तो खैर जब मैं वापस आई हूँ, it's funny, like, all these real things also play in your head while you're visiting this really sacred place.
Sure.
So this is also reality. You can't just be like, oh, it's, so...
I was lost. Nahi. Unless you ate something or smoked something. No.
So I remember when I came back and, like, I looked at my feet and they were, like, super clean. And I was like, what just happened? And for some reason, of course, you also like to impose these ideas, na कि यार देखो ये कितनी amazing vibe है.
Sure.
कि मेरे तो पैर भी नहीं गंदे हुए.
Yeah. Could
so
be
I
that.
still distinctly remember this episode. कि मैं बाहर भी गई और all the way चढ़ी और all सारा ही जगहों पे फिर के आई और मेरे पैर बिल्कुल साफ थे. ना से ये कैसे हुआ है?
Interesting. That's interesting. And I would feel that that's strangely an allegory for life. आप निकली, आप हर जगह गई, लेकिन alhamdulillah, now you're back here. When you were in New York, I have asked lots of people, I have personally struggled with this a lot. Was there ever an impetus to not come back?
Yes.
Straight up, yes.
Yes. I didn't want to come back.
You didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back either. Why didn't you want to come back?
I just thought कि यहाँ पे वहाँ पे ज़्यादा opportunities हैं, वहाँ पे ज़्यादा जो मुझे करना है, अगर मुझे arts और culture में काम करना है जो मुझे उस वक्त तब से करना था, तो वहाँ पे ज़्यादा that's like the heart of where of the world.
Yeah.
So that's where I should be. And I didn't think that I would find, alhamdulillah, when I moved back, उसी तरह की opportunities मेरे लिए यहाँ बनती गईं.
वो तो अल्लाह में बना देते हैं.
But that was definitely something that I thought that I would want to stay back.
Then why did you move back? Just missed home?
No, for personal reasons.
Okay. All right. Fair.
Yeah. My father was unwell, very unwell at the time. So
Me, I also moved back because of my father and my family, and like you've said, Allah Miyan ne sare raste khol diye. But I remember not wanting to come back. In fact, I've told you, I have always been dragged out of my houses from Hyderabad to Karachi and from Karachi to Malaysia. I'm like, I don't want to go. And then also from Toronto to Karachi. But I suppose that's just, there's power in that as well, na?
I think we're also creatures of habit.
Sure.
Because आप एक जगह जब settle हो जाते हैं, फिर आपका वहाँ से नहीं दिल चाहता. एटलीस्ट मेरा भी यही. अब जिस तरह मैं यहाँ पे हूँ सेटल्ड कराची में कितने अरसे से, तो अब मैं सोचती भी हूँ कि यार है मुझे शौक कि मैं जिस कि मुझे मुख्तलिफ दुनिया के मुख्तलिफ शहरों में रहना है. बस एक है
रहना
शौक.
हाँ. विजिट नहीं करना है, रहना है.
विजिट तो करना ही है, लेकिन रहना भी है.
ये मसला है थोड़ा सा. नहीं, थोड़ा सा मसला है ये.
मसला तो है. but you know,
Sure, why not?
ख्वाब तो मतलब ख्वाबों पे तो नहीं एक
नहीं।
आप कैद लगा
नहीं,
सकते ना,
नहीं,
मैं
नहीं,
कुछ
नहीं।
भी
Your-
कुछ भी
no, absolutely.
imagine करती हूँ.
Yes, your dreams are not beholden to anyone. No.
बिल्कुल. तो नहीं तो एक है just also कि मतलब आपकी अपनी ग्रोथ भी होती है और ज़रा एक चेंज करना चाहिए अपने आप को पुश, पर जब आप एक जगह सेटल हो जाते हो फिर वो बड़ा मुश्किल होता है टू गेट आउट ऑफ दैट. तो आप उधर फिर फंस जाते हो एक तरह से.
In that language or in that theory, then couldn't we make the argument that discomfort is a good thing then? Because what you're saying is if you get comfortable, then you'll be like, nah, I'm a tree now.
Exactly.
Yes, but then discomfort is the best thing in the world because discomfort will never let you sit
It
still.
pushes you out of your bubble and it pushes you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think coming back to, again, my journey as a musician,
Yeah, mashallah, yeah.
it also pushed me out of my comfort zone because I said, no, मैं front पे नहीं गा सकती. Like, I'm too shy. I'm not that great. I'm not confident enough.
Yeah.
You know, but when I got Cook Studio, like Cook Studio also happened कि I joined the Cook Studio production team with Ruhail, and I was looking at the research and you know, editorial and creative strategy, and this was before like COVID lockdown happened. So
right.
बड़ा different type of Cook Studio होना था.
Yeah, of course.
Right? तो ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम उनको यू नो रुहेल को पता था कि मुझे शौक है, मैं अपने गाने भी लिखती हूँ. मैंने कभी ही ऑल्सो हैड सेड कि आप यू नो ये फुल टाइम चीज़ है तो आप प्रोडक्शन में हो सकती हैं, या अगर आपने बैकिंग वोकलिस्ट बनना है या आपने वो करना है तो यू विल हैव टू just do that. So I had been a backing vocalist before, so I was like, I want to learn production. And so I was like, you know.
What does production entail?
So production, I was part of their research and editorial team. Which was also about, you know, like what are the different types of songs that have to be done.
Wow. What's the
how
meaning?
What are the meanings? How do you like write about them? Like short stories that need to be written about those. You know, kind of like coming up with the whole idea of the whole season.
Well, it's so refreshing to hear you say that so much work goes into it because it shows that you're reverent about the music, no?
Yeah, of
you
course.
Must be, no?
Of course.
You must be reverent.
Think of it from all different sides. And, you know, like I worked with someone like Ruhail who's वो हर एक एंगल से उसको देखते हैं कि उसकी शायरी भी कैसी, वो खुद यू नो एक एक चीज़ पढ़ते हैं. ना टुटिया वे भी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी उसकी, वो एक फ़ीमेल एंथम के तौर पे लॉन्च हुआ था पंजाबी में. वो शुजा हैदर ने ओरिजिनली लिखा था. ही इज़ ऑल्सो लाइक अ फेमस सिंगर कंपोज़र, बहुत मशहूर एंड वेरी वेरी ग्रेट पर्सन, ऑल्सो लाहौर बेस्ड. तो उन्होंने लिखा था एंड उनको फिर ज़रा सा ट्वीक किया आसिम रज़ा ने, हु ऑल्सो लाइक यू नो रोट मैनी ऑफ द लिरिक्स फॉर कोक स्टूडियोज़ लास्ट सीजन, लॉट ऑफ द सॉन्ग्स. तो वो गाना पहले था टूटिया, दिल मेरा टूटिया, मतलब दिल मेरा टूटा. तो यू नो दिस वाज रोहेल्स क्रिएटिव डायरेक्शन विजन. ही सेड नहीं, हम
टूट के भी नहीं टूटा.
हाँ, और हम उसको प्रेमिस शुरू करेंगे कि ना टूटिया, मतलब कि नहीं मतलब टूट के भी नहीं टूटा. ये नहीं हम कह रहे कि हम हार्ट ब्रेक को सेलिब्रेट करें.
नहीं.
हम कह रहे हैं कि टूटते टूटते नहीं टूटा. एंड दैट इज़ ऑल्सो यू नो जस्ट टू गिव एन एग्जाम्पल कि कितनी बारीकियों में इवन द स्पेयरिंग ऑफ इंटरनेशनल म्यूजिशियंस, यू नो नेपाली एंड Lebanese, we had like musicians from Lebanon as well, and that's something that I was also part of. Like I was coordinating with these international musicians. So I joined as part of the production team.
Yeah.
And when lockdown happened, everything changed. And in that time, you know, I would share my music, or that was one of the ways of keeping yourself busy, I guess, at home. So Ruhail then, you know, when the season came back on, he said, why don't you do your own song for this season?
And then like someone with proper self-hate issues, you're just like, nahi, main to nahi. How could I possibly? Right?
And I know, and that's what I said. I'm like, acha, are you sure?
Are you?
Like, main?
He's like, yes. Yes, you. Mashallah.
And then he's so kind. He's like, hey, you know, think about it and stuff. He's very sweet about it.
Yeah.
But I was like, what?
What's going on here?
What?
I
thought मैंने सिर्फ अपने लिए गाने लिखे.
But that must in its own way be quite a paradigm shift in how you view yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because see, someone like Rohil Hayat, I've never met him, right? But I've heard such interesting things about him. That means something. That's not empty. Do you know? Like that's a person who's lived a life, right? So and he's not gonna waste his words. He doesn't need to, right?
And he's he's very clear about what he wants and how to produce an artist, and उनको जो चीज़ अच्छी लगती है वो अच्छी लगती है, जो नहीं अच्छी लगती है वो नहीं अच्छी लगती. So it was a great validation, and I felt so blessed and honored. And इसमें तो मैं कहूँगी कि मेरे सारा credit मेरे उस्ताद को जाता है, मेरे teacher को जाता है, मेरी शायद of course मेरी वालदा को भी जाता है.
Of course.
But
and you for sticking, obviously, एक वो छोटी सी
चीज़ थोड़ा सा एंड में मुझे शायद थोड़ा सा
अगर कुछ बच जाता है तो मैं भी लेना चाहूंगी, घर लेके जाऊंगी इसको.
नहीं, मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि ना भी मिले तो के
जरूरी नहीं है. That's beautiful.
क्योंकि मुझसे तो नहीं, मैंने खुद तो नहीं किया ना, मेरे लिए हो गई ये चीजें. So मेरा इसमें क्या रोल है?
Yeah, so we're meant to, as Muslims, we're meant to believe that. It's in the Quran. It says that everything good is from Allah, everything bad is what your hands sent forward. I think the way I understand that is that obviously we're just trying to put one foot in front of the other. Obviously we don't know what's going on. Like, think about the fact that you are now someone who has at least has so much music on arguably the biggest platform in Pakistan. It's argument bhi itni zyada अच्छी नहीं है, लेकिन चलो.
It is.
It is, right? So let's not even say arguably, right? Your life has been a build up to this. Right? But if I went back 10 years and asked you then, you'd be like, no, one foot in front of the other, buddy. I don't have time to... What cooks? No. Just one foot in front of the other, right?
Bilkul.
And then when you just...
and then when you zoom out.
Exactly, right? You're just like,
yes,
so that's what I was doing, right?
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So I felt like this with talking. People used to criticize all the time that I used to love talking. And like, you don't even believe in the things that you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, but I'm just having a conversation with you, right? And after so long, writing and talking, these two things, right? Because my education is in philosophy, writing, and then I do a podcast. When I finally now get someone in my comments or whatever, and they're like, this conversation helped me. I'm like, so even just the fact that Allah Miyan ne mujhe itne sare खूबसूरत उस्ताद दिए who taught me कि आप इंसानों की तरह कैसे बात करते हैं. Even just that, I didn't know what was happening. I was just, trying to get my education done or whatever, one foot in front of the other. आखिर में. But it's when you zoom out, and that's what I was talking about earlier with anchoring yourself. So you anchored yourself in music, right? And then you were like, okay, now that I've anchored myself in music, now I'm going to go pursue, anthropology of culture and Sufism and all these other things, right? But really, that anchor was something a little closer to your heart, and it's something a little more simple, right?
Bilkul.
Just the love for music.
Bilkul.
I suppose there's power in that.
Absolutely. And I think होता है ना कि आपकी दिल की ख्वाहिशें होती हैं जो Allah Miyan is closer to you than your jugular vein, जैसे कहते हैं.
Yes.
तो वो है, शायद थी कब से, शायद एक बसी हुई एक दिल के कोने में कहीं वो ख्वाहिश, वो ख्वाब के मतलब कि उन्हीं को पता है कि मुझे कितना शौक़ है इसका, या मुझे कितना सुकून मिलता है, या मुझे लगता है कि इसमें वाकई वो है capacity to really change people or bring people together. I really think that music can bring cultures together, bring countries together, bring people together. So again, it's not just music, it's much more than that. It's like vibration and energies and a direct link to the heart and emotion. So I really believe that, and I think that वो कहीं मेरी वो पुकार थी जो I guess automatically just kind of kept.
Do you journal? Do you go to therapy? Did you say this to anyone? Yaar, I might want to, one day be on Coke Studio.
I had thought of that.
Yeah.
when I was in Lums, because that's the time when Coke Studio came out, and I was blown away
By how brilliant it
because
was, yeah,
you know
mashallah, yeah.
how the first few seasons and you know were like magic.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it was a time where there was so much of like radicalization or extremism,
Sure.
blast, whatever.
Sure.
And you suddenly see like this crazy music that's coming out, like really cool and
Tumba.
current. Exactly.
Alif Allah.
Alif Allah and you know सारे आपके जो classics थे.
Yeah.
तो वो तो obviously एक था mind shift and I was like it would be so cool to be. शायद मैंने सोचा था, I know कि मैंने सोचा था उस
Yeah.
वक्त, but कभी actually नहीं सोचा था कि वो होगा.
How you keep your dreams with Allah Mia for safekeeping now?
हाँ.
You just send it to him, you're like, Allah Mia.
और वो सुन रहे होते हैं.
Yeah. Oh,
तो
yeah.
आपको कभी नहीं पता कि कब वो actually
Yeah.
कबूल हो जाए.
Yeah.
कबूलियत की घड़ी जिसे कहते हैं.
हाँ,
कि, you never know.
No, you don't. That's powerful. That really is. Natutya, woman anthem and all those things. How do you approach the women empowerment narrative generally in Pakistan, the Aurat March and all these things, and then the message in that, because the message in Natutya is actually about togetherness, right? Resilience, and loving someone enough that they understand love, right? Lots of lyrics, because I obviously had my mom to explain to me. मैं तो आपको पता है ना foreign में
आप
उर्दू
सिंधी बोलते हैं?
सिंधी बोलता हूँ, सिंधी, उर्दू and English, that's it. और वो भी टूटी फूटी ज़ाहिर है.
हाँ वो पंजाबी में है ना.
हाँ.
तो,
So you know, but obviously the end sequence with Misha Shafi, that was pretty self-explanatory. The rap part of it, where you know कि टूट जाने पहाड़ी है, वो सही है, जब दिल टूटता है ठीक है, fair enough. But in the middle somewhere, there's stuff like, you know, कि आप मेरे सर के साईं हो, मैं आपके ताज का हीरा हूँ.
शिमले दा सोना लड़.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing to me? Why are you doing?
तू मेरे सिर दा साईं,
Yeah.
मैं तेरे शिमले दा सोना लड़.
Yeah, you know, and then also that I accept your family.
तस्लीम है कुंभा तेरा.
हाँ, तस्लीम, पर मैं भी तेरा कुंभा. You know what I mean?
एहतियात तू रखना.
आप तेरा ख्याल रखना. So all of that just, you know, because there's so, marriage as an institution is so problematic in our country because it's weaponized just like pretty much everything else against women.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
Yeah.
कि it was like you know it's a partnership.
Yes.
It's a partnership. और you know मैं अपना रोल अगर अदा कर रही हूँ तो तुम अपना रोल अदा करो.
Yeah. Don't ever forget that.
हाँ. और तुम्हारा जो है और जो मेरी है हैसियत सोसाइटी में उसको तुम दो वो ड्यू क्रेडिट. और you know उसमें वो बाद में ये भी है कि सोना रब जिन्हों इज्जत देवे उदी इज्जत कर.
Yeah.
पावे होवे नारी नाजुक.
Yeah.
पावे होवे नर, मतलब
Yeah.
लड़की हो या लड़का हो.
Yeah.
अल्लाह मियाँ ने अगर आपको ब्लेसिंग दी है तो आप इतनी खूबसूरत, मतलब इसकी शायरी ये आसिम रज़ा ने और शुजान दोनों ने लिखा था इसको. बट या इट्स अ वेरी वेरी मीनिंगफुल इम्पोर्टेंट मैसेज एंड आई थिंक वो एक काफ़ी पाकिस्तानी अवाम को या हर किसी को वो रिलेट करता है. वेरी रिलेटेबल. यस डेफिनेटली.
So I'll tell you this, I used to be a man when I was 18. किसी चीज़ पे नहीं रोता था. But since I've gotten older now, all of these things make me cry. I don't know what's wrong with me.
That's a great thing.
I
That's
suppose.
a great thing. I think आपने इतने साल शायद उसको बंद करके रखा. ये भी एक है ना कि हम कहते हैं कि रोना अगर हो तो लाइक लड़की ना बनो.
Yeah.
रो क्यों रहे, मर्द बनो, because apparently मर्द नहीं रो सकते.
नहीं.
You know, तो
The only mode available to us is
सख्ती
anger.
होना चाहिए.
Anger, बस गुस्सा.
हाँ.
हर चीज़ पे गुस्सा.
हाँ, रोब दिखाओ. Exactly. So ये, even though I mean we've been made, like all of us have feminine and masculine attributes.
Yeah.
There's
yes.
some that are more masculine, some girls that are more masculine, some men who are more feminine.
All right. Yeah.
You
All
know,
beautiful.
We have all these things
Yeah,
in us.
yeah.
We are complete like that.
So Carl Jung, he's a psychologist. वो Freud से उनने कता ताल्लुकी कर ली थी, लेकिन वो भी उनके शागिर्द थे. And he wrote extensively about the subconscious या unconscious, अब मैं भूल रहा हूँ, but he wrote about the individual subconscious and the collective societal unconscious. And he said that's where archetypes come from, right? उस सब के बीच में he was like, देखो बात सुनो, you have the anima and the animus. all of us have feminine traits and masculine traits. It's impossible that you don't.
बिल्कुल.
Right? So ये मर्दानगी और ये मर्दाना जनाना ये जो होता है ना, ये एक हद तक ही सही लगता है. उसके बाद ये नहीं करना चाहिए मेरे ख्याल में. Now I'm really just going to get into trouble. All the trouble. But yeah, this has been truly wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
It's been delightful to have you. I hope that we see you again, inshallah. Right? And आप नंबर दे देना अपने उस्ताद का, फिर अगर वो नहीं, जो भी जाता है उनके पास, अगर वो नहीं सेलेक्ट करते तो so then he doesn't ना.
आप actually कह रहे हैं कि उनका publicly आप लगाएंगे नंबर?
हाँ, he wouldn't like that?
I don't think that's
No?
something that anyone would want.
To be, advertisement? No? Like everyone who comes. So he's not, mustn't be that kind of person. No?
No, it's so the thing is that, you know, he's there to teach for people who are serious music students. Na? Matlab, it's not like, oh, you know, chalo aaj ek class karke dekhte hain.
Right, so then the argument is...
जिनको वाकई शौक है तो...
They'll find him.
You know, exactly. Yeah, they'll find him. Or, you know, you're always happy to reach out to me and I can send it to you and you can share it with whoever. Yes. But maybe वैसे, I don't think किसी का भी number इस तरह से public... मैं अपना भी ना चाहूँ कि, you know...
But he doesn't have Instagram or anything like that.
So he is part of this Qawwali group called Sami Brothers.
Sami Brothers.
And उनका नाम रऊफ सामी है, उनके भाई हैं 3, उरूज सामी, अहमद सामी, अजीम सामी. They're amazing qawwals. हाँ, और उनकी कवाली भी मतलब मैंने कभी मिस नहीं की है, जब भी होती है यहाँ पे, तो वो भी मैंने उनसे सीखे हैं. उनके काफ़ी सारे कलाम जो हैं कवाली के भी क्लासिकल, वो करते ही क्लासिकल कवाली है ना. That's their unique style.
What So I must have heard a lot of qawwalis, but what distinguishes a qawwali from something else? What is the distinguishing feature?
So qawwali is actually a product of classical music.
All right.
उसको semi classical music में हम कहेंगे, नीम classical जिसे कहते हैं.
सही.
But वो निकला classical music से ही है. And इसके creator हैं जो उन्होंने create किया, वो अमीर खुसरो को कहते हैं. उन्होंने कॉल से शुरू किया था. कॉल आर sayings of from the Quran or from the Holy Prophet. And then उनको आप कहते हैं, फिर you have multiple types of qawwalis. मनकबत होते हैं, मनकबत में again they're attributed to big Sufi saints, या to some of the kings of that time. उनके नाम उनके शान में लिखे गए थे,
like Bulia and all those stuff like that. ख्वाजा निज़ामुद्दीन के लिए लिखा गया, या मोइनुद्दीन चिश्ती के लिए लिखा गया, या किसी किंग के लिए लिखा गया, उनको भी मनकबत कहेंगे. Right, okay. मनकबत.
हाँ, हज़रत अली की शान में जो लिखे गए उनको भी मनकबत कहेंगे. So really big spiritual figures.
Okay.
उनको मनकबत कहेंगे. फिर नात शरीफ होती है, वो भी कव्वाली में होती है. Right, so there are all these different types. But Amir Khusro took words like just Qawwali is known for uski poetry.
Yes.
And took it with the rags and he blended them together, and of course the tal, जो हमारा क्लासिकल का वो एक राग और ताल का सिस्टम है, और उन तीनों को ब्लेंड करके उन्होंने खूबसूरत सी एक किस्म बनाई जिसको हम कवाली कहते हैं.
Do you have a favorite कवाली?
Oh God, that's like asking कि आपका favorite म्यूजिशियन कौन है या गाना कौन सा. ये नहीं हो सकता पॉसिबल. ये किसी से ना पूछिएगा. जिनको म्यूजिक का शौक है, उन्होंने कभी बताया आपको?
नहीं, हमेशा यही जवाब देते हैं. नहीं. But so कवाली का भी ऐसा ही सीन है. You don't have one favorite. Which ones can you perform that is your favorite?
Which ones can I perform?
That are your favorite. Like one that is like, okay, this one I love doing and also it's one of my favorites.
It's not linked to me performing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not linked to me performing.
Okay.
But I mean, so many of them. I don't even know where to begin.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, and the beautiful thing about Qawwali is it's like done differently every time.
Right. Yes.
You know, तो उसमें improvisational elements जो होते हैं. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Saab was known for his, the way he would blend different rags together in the same qawwali. So, I mean, every version I think is unique. So, I can't seem to think कि मेरा favorite कौन सा है, but I will say कि एक platform है YouTube पे Dream Journey के नाम से, वो बड़ा अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. वो डॉक्यूमेंट उन्होंने किया है पूरे पाकिस्तान में मुख्तलिफ शहर जाके कवालों को डिफरेंट ख़ानदानों से घरानों से उनको डॉक्यूमेंट करते हैं. It's beautiful. So if people are interested, they should go and see that.
Dream Journey.
Dream Journey उनके चैनल का नाम है.
Dream Journey on YouTube. About damn time. Okay, final thoughts. Coke Studio, obviously number one. How'd you find Velo? The pop music thing, Velo sound station?
Yeah, of course. Like, what do you mean? As in,
like, did you enjoy it? Because that's not the kind of music you do, per se. It's all pop and...
no, I think I would love to do some of pop music as well. I mean, yeah, I think that some of the Velo tracks were really nice.
Your favorite one?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. I really liked Natasha Noorani's Baby Baby.
All right, yes.
That was cool.
Okay.
Can't remember more.
Confetti tha, Shamoon ka.
Shamoon I like his other stuff
Shamoon's
more than
fun.
the Velo one.
Yeah, Shamoon's just fun. Boom Boom.
Boom
Throwback.
was cool.
Kadi Dahas.
Kadi Dahas was nice.
Atif Aslam again.
Yeah. So I mean, I liked them.
Yeah.
I thought they were like, they were like nice, easy listening kind of tracks.
Do you have something
and I would
written
love to.
for something like Velo? Like, do you have an original that you could?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would love to do like some pop stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it depends, what sort of pop it is, and but I mean, everything is pop these days, right? Like, अगर आपने mainstream markets वगैरह में जाना है, तो वो generally एक popular sound ही है.
Yeah. It just means pop culture, na? Pop music,
popular
music, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any designs on social media for you?
Any
like,
designs?
Designs as in, like, would you like to maybe set up your own little sound studio in your house for YouTube or Instagram? क्योंकि अभी तो आपका जो है, it's all like organic. If you feel like posting something, you post something. Right? But you could also strategize that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Maybe you can help me with that.
वो तो मैं कर लेते हैं इंशाल्लाह.
But I don't know. Like, I would definitely like to build a community. People. जैसे आपने कहा, आप जैसे लोग हैं, आपके friend ने आपको कहा.
Yeah.
तो उस तरह के लोगों के साथ मिलके जो आप जैसी मौसीकी सुनते हैं, जो शौक हैं, I'd like to engage and create that sort of community, and so that's what I'm trying to build. And I'm also recently I'm part of Clubhouse as well. Again, I'm not sure if you're aware of that. तो उस पे भी मैं I'm trying to build a community there as well, and connecting with people from across the border. I've made lots of friends from India also that way. So I think that's like what I'm kind of trying to do at the moment, and also trying to write and publish more. That's another thing, because I've recently published also this article. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. It was on the forgotten voices of Pakistan, like females from like the early classical music tradition.
Oh, wow.
तो उस पे मैंने रिसर्च अपनी काफ़ी कुछ अरसे से की थी, एंड देन आई डॉक्यूमेंटेड कि हमारा जो ये कोर्टिजन कल्चर था मुग़ल के टाइम से, वो किस तरह से आया, एंड वो किस तरह से बदनाम हुआ ब्रिटिश के टाइम्स पे, जिन्होंने उनको एक इस तरह का लाइक एक बुरा एक बुरी तरह पोर्ट्रे किया, जो आज तक हम फीमेल एंटरटेनर्स के साथ एसोसिएट करते हैं. तो आई डिड दिस होल रिसर्च पीस ऑन इट. सो माई इंटरेस्ट इज ऑल्सो इन ट्राइंग टू कंटिन्यू टू put out research on South Asian music history, especially in the context of Pakistan, जहाँ पे वैसी मौसीकी के ऊपर बहुत कम बात होती है, या state patronage नहीं होती. तो that's one of my interests that I want to continue to write and publish more.
Inshallah. All right. So all of that stuff will be on your Instagram, I think.
Yes.
Linked. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Tribal Gulabo.
Tribal Gulabo. Not burger at
Tribal
all.
Gulabo.
Tribal Gulabo.
गुलाबो तो यहीं के होते हैं, मतलब गुलाबो फॉरेन तो नहीं हो सकती.
फॉरेन हो नहीं सकती, लेकिन हम यूज इस तरीके से करते हैं ना. एंड क्लब हाउस पे?
क्लब हाउस पे I'm Tribal Gulabo. Facebook पे I'm Tribal Gulabo.
Yes.
Twitter पे I'm Tribal Gulabo.
You are on Twitter then?
I'm on Twitter as well.
Active?
I'm probably least active on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
I don't use it that much. Actually, I really struggle with social media, and I really probably need to somehow
Hire someone. You really need to make it someone else's
I
headache.
need to probably hire someone, yeah.
there's
I don't know if there's a need to hire someone, but or maybe there is, I don't know. But I also am not that person who's constantly needs to push out content. मतलब अगर मुझे meaningful लगती है चीज़ तो मैं post करती हूँ.
Yeah.
I'm also not the sort कि मैं अपनी तस्वीरें ज़्यादा लगाऊँ या अपनी personal चीज़ें लगाऊँ. वो भी मैं I'm not like that. I'm like a private person. तो वो भी इसलिए नहीं करती. तो I'm not probably the best artist
No, I
who
think
promotes themselves.
No, I think you're a pretty good artist. I think you're not a good promoter, and that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. Is you have to, unfortunately, at the end of the day, you have to productivize yourself, and therein is the problem for a lot of artists, because they're like, yeah, I'm a singer.
Huh.
You know, why should I post photos of myself?
But now you're supposed to do all
You
these
need to.
things, na?
You
You
need
need
to.
to have, like, you need to be doing cover songs, and
Yes.
you need to be posting little 1-minute videos. And
Portraits.
Portraits and
Just whimsical portraits. कोई फूल
हाँ.
वूल लगाया हुआ है, कोई ऐसा सीन हो रहा है.
वो मुझसे बिल्कुल भी नहीं होता. बहुत
हाँ.
मुश्किल होता है.
हाँ.
इनफैक्ट इतना ही मैं कर लूँ उस पर तो बहुत बड़ी बात है. I mean, I was completely off Facebook, off social media for a really long time.
Yeah, no, you can't afford
You
that
can't
anymore.
do that anymore.
You can't afford
Especially with someone like, you know, in entertainment and
Yeah.
media and stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
If you hope to sustain yourself, you absolutely can't do that.
Yeah.
But Tribal Gulabo everywhere,
Yes.
right? And YouTube coming soon.
Yeah. Why
Yeah?
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Open to everything.
Yeah.
Wajiha, this
And
has
also,
been,
by the way, another like,
Yeah.
self-promotion.
Of course,
since,
please,
since
yeah,
we're on this.
you
show.
have to. Come on now.
I also launched this album in April called Hijrat, which is
Hijrat.
मुझे आपके podcast से याद आया, which is also on Spotify and other streaming platforms.
All right, Hijrat.
Apple. So Hijrat, the album Hijrat, it's actually a collection of different languages spoken in South Asia. And उसमें फ़ारसी है, पश्तो है, बंगाली है, सिंधी है. मेरा अपना गाना जो कुक स्टूडियो का था उर्दू में था, यकीन, वो है. और मैंने मुख्तलिफ लैंग्वेजेस में ये पूरी एल्बम की है, of different folk songs, or popular songs.
You've produced them, or did you sing all of them?
Yes, I sung them.
All of them in all these languages.
Yes.
How many languages can you speak?
So I can't speak all of them, but I spent a lot of effort learning the actual dialects for each of those languages. बड़ी मेहनत की थी मैंने. I can speak Punjabi and Hindko because मेरी घर में मेरी अम्मी की साइड से वो बोली जाती है.
Hindko
बोलती हैं.
Then you could probably speak
Hindko is
Sindhi.
very close
Yeah.
to Sindhi तो नहीं, सिराइकी से काफ़ी.
हाँ, सिराइकी, sorry.
तो
yeah.
सिराइकी is probably that, but सिंधी मैंने जो सिंधी ट्रैक था वो सीखा था भगत कंवर राम का जो नाले अलग खजे बेड़ो तार मुंजो, वो मैंने किया था. उसके लिए भी बड़ी मैंने actually that was the most challenging track. फ़ारसी क्योंकि मैंने सीखी है तो उससे I'm familiar with that. तो वो that was their Pashto because my mother is also from Peshawar and a lot of our family is from there, so I've been I'm very well versed, or at least somewhat well versed in that language. मुझे समझ आती है, मैं बोलती नहीं हूँ इतनी fluently, but I'm familiar with Pashto. And Bengali was completely new for me. But that's an album that I would really would love for people to hear and tell me what they think. आप भी सुनिएगा.
आप भी सुनिएगा. He's just like, okay.
और
Hijrat.
Yes.
Hijrat
So
available everywhere that you stream
it was
music.
released with A for Alif.
Yeah.
Karachi based
Umair
music.
Dar,
Umair
yeah,
Dar
yeah.
के साथ बिल्कुल. He was really kind enough to produce it, and he's also played in it. उसमें जासिर हैं, जासिर आब्रो, अजीज काजी, इरफान खान playing bass, उमैर हैं और मैं हूँ. हम
That's
लोग का एक लाइव स्टूडियो सेट है उसका.
That's wonderful.
और वो
That is-
YouTube पे भी पूरा वर्जन है एंड वी ट्रांसलेटेड ऑल द सॉन्ग्स इन इंग्लिश ऑल्सो.
Yeah.
तो अगर किसी को शौक है उसके पढ़ने का तो वो काफ़ी एक बड़ा एक प्रोजेक्ट. आई एम वेरी प्राउड ऑफ दैट व्हिच इज़ व्हाई आई वांट के पीपल मस्ट go and check it out and tell me
Inshallah,
what they think.
inshallah, and it's a labor of love from the
बिल्कुल,
sounds of it, right?
बिल्कुल, absolutely.
That's beautiful. Tribal Gulabo, Hijrat, anything else?
No, I think for now
That's it. All right.
Yeah.
Until we see you next time, Wajiha, thank you.
Thank you
All right.
so much for having me. Thank you.
Wajiha, Qazi Akbar. Assalamu alaikum.